Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To our listeners who are joining us on Freedom Radio from Robb Street, Georgetown, welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And to the tens of thousands of you who are joining us on Facebook Live right across the length and breadth of Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, Asia, and further afield. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. Josh Singh, Nuruddin Khan, Leslie Mangal, Ramo Singh, Mahendra Ramnarayan, Soma Bipat, Shamo Gir, Taramati Dean, and so many of you who are joining us from right across the globe. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News, and make sure you share this program, share the live, so that your friends and followers can join us in tonight's discussion. We want the widest possible audience joining us in tonight's discussion. So whether you're looking at the program on your phone, on your iPad, on your computer, on your tablet, share the program so that you and your friends and your followers can join us in tonight's discussion. Use the comment section to raise questions that you want me to answer, raise issues that you want me to discuss, so that we can have an engaging program. As I said, I will try my best to read while I'm speaking, but it's not a very easy thing to do. But welcome and share the program so that all your friends and followers can join us in tonight's discussion. I hope that you are seeing me clearly and you are hearing me clearly. Yes, because I had a technical glitch as I was looking at the screen just now. So let us start. Making the news this evening is a ruling by by a single judge, Justice Gregory, sitting in the Guyana Court of Appeal in relation to an application for a stay of execution filed by the Attorney General in relation to the Guyana Teachers Union case, in which the Attorney General sought a stay of execution against a particular aspect of the ruling of Justice Sandil Kisoon in the High Court in the GTU case brought against the Attorney General in relation to teachers' terms and conditions and then the strike actions that followed. All of you are familiar with the facts of the case and the ruling of Justice Sandil Kisoon. You are also aware that the ruling of Justice Kisoon was appealed to the Guyana Court of Appeal. That appeal is still pending, and we are awaiting a date of hearing in relation to that appeal. What we did as an interim was to make an application to a single judge sitting in the Court of Appeal for a stay of execution in relation to one aspect of Justice Kisoon's ruling. And that aspect is the aspect of the ruling that compels the government to continue to deduct union dues from members of the union and remitting those union dues to the union. Recall the government made a decision in February 2024 that it will no longer offer that service to the union. The Guyana Teachers Union is the only union in Guyana that the government is offering that service to. That service used to be offered to the Guyana Public Service Union, and 25 years ago, the government made a decision to cease offering that service to the Guyana Public Service Union. The Guyana Public Service Union, like the Teachers Union, challenged the decision of the government at that time. The case was filed against Nanda Gopal, who was then the permanent secretary for, I believe, the Public Service Ministry. The union lost in the High Court. The High Court ruled that the government can terminate that service, that the government has no duty in law to perform that service for the union, that the union has a duty to collect its own union dues from its members, and that if the government decides not to offer that service, which is a voluntary service, then the government has a right to do so. And terminating that service is not an unlawful act. That, in essence, was the ruling of the High Court. That ruling was appealed by the union, and the Court of Appeal, the very Court of Appeal, of which Justice Gregory is a member, and Justice Gregory sat significantly as a member of that very court that ruled in the Nanda Gopal matter. And that court, comprising of this very judge, upheld the High Court ruling in Nanda Gopal's case and held that the government did not commit any breach of the law, did not commit an unlawful act, did not act illegally, and committed no wrong when it terminated the service of deducting union dues from members of that union and remitting it to the union. So the government did almost an identical thing, and the High Court said it's right, and the Court of Appeal, in which this very judge sat, said that nothing is wrong with it. And there's a written judgment to that effect. That case was given to the judge. Any person who is familiar with the law will tell you that when you apply for a stay of execution in respect of a judgment that is under appeal, you must satisfy certain requirements. You must show that your appeal has prospects of success. You must show that you have good grounds of appeal. And you must show that the risk of injustice would lie in favor risk of justice, that the justice of the case would be in favor of the grant of the stay. The learned judge, Justice Gregory, essentially found in her judgment that she delivered today, and we'll get a written copy of the judgment tomorrow, the learned judge found that we have good grounds of appeal, that our appeal has likelihood of success, that our appeal raises several important and crucial issues of law, but found, strangely, that the justice of the case doesn't warrant a stay to be granted. Many authorities say that once you establish that you have good grounds of appeal and that your appeal has good prospects of success, that is enough. This judge went on to find that the justice of the case did not merit a stay to be granted. We explained that the government had ceased providing this service to the teachers' union since February, and there was no apparent prejudice suffered by the union. February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. From February to December, when we had the arguments, that's 10 months, the government had already ceased performing this service. The union didn't collapse. The union, as we pointed out to the court, has every right and responsibility to go and uplift union dues from its members. That is its responsibility. That is its business. There is no duty in law that you can impose on the government to perform that service for the union if the government doesn't want to. This is a government, and there is no compulsion in law to perform any voluntary service. You can't compel me to do you a favor unless the law creates that obligation. Then a court of law cannot enforce it. That's law. The obligation, the act that you are compelling must have legal underpinning. There must be some duty created in law before a court of law can compel the performance of that duty. The government is now being saddled with a responsibility and a duty now in law to collect union dues and pay it over to the union from members of the union. That's a union business. How can you compel a government to do that? And I thought that the law was clear, it having been settled by the very Court of Appeal in the Nanda Gopal case. And you know, the Caribbean Court of Justice only recently reiterated the importance of the doctrine of stare decisis, because the Court of Appeal did not follow one of its previous decisions. And when it went to the CCJ, and I'm speaking about the case of Vikash Ramkisoon and Sarah Brown, we just won that case. And in that case, the CCJ explains the importance of stare decisis. Stare decisis means that A lower court is bound by a decision of a higher court, and the higher court is bound by its own decision. A single judge sitting in that higher court would be bound by the decision of the whole court of 3 judges. This is one judge. This one judge, Justice Kissoon, first of all, should have considered himself bound by the Court of Appeal decision in Gopal case. This judge ought to have considered herself bound by the 3 judges of which she was a part in the Gopal's case. I am not surprised by the ruling because I had advised the cabinet that the government doesn't have a track record of winning cases in the Guyana Court of Appeal. And I'm not casting any aspersions. If you check the statistics, they will bear out that statement. So I'm not surprised. But we are going to challenge that decision. We have to challenge that decision by going before 3 judges of that court. That's the procedure. And we will do that. That's the only way we will get to the Caribbean Court of Justice, where we eventually would like to go. Another aspect of the case that I see in the public domain is a contention by the union that there is non-compliance with the order of Justice Sandil Kissoon, and that the Attorney General is in contempt of court, and my refusal to comply, or the government's refusal to comply with the order of Justice Kissoon, constitutes an affront to the administration of justice. Well, let me put the public record straight. Justice Kissoon made an interim order since February of this year, or last year, since February. And in that interim order, Justice Kissoon ordered as follows. And let me read it for you. It is further ordered that an interim conservatory order is granted, restraining the government of Guyana from discontinuing the deduction of union dues from the wages and salaries of members of the Guyana Teachers Union and the remittance thereof to the Guyana Teachers Union. So the government of Guyana, an order was granted against it, the government of Guyana, restraining the government from discontinuing the deductions. In other words, we were to continue the deductions from dues, from wages and salaries of members of the Teachers Union and remit same to the Teachers Union. That is the order that Justice Kissoon made since February. On the 14th of March, I have a letter here. Ms. Shaniel Hussein Autar, the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Education, wrote to Dr. Mark Light, President, Guyana Teachers Union, Wolford Avenue, Georgetown. Dear Dr. Light, the caption of the letter is Compliance with order of court. And the letter reads, and I'm reading it to you, you would be aware of the interim conservatory order of the High Court of the Supreme Court of Judicature, which indicated inter alia that it is further ordered that an interim conservatory order is granted restraining the government of Guyana from discontinuing the deduction of union dues from the wages and salaries of members of the Guyana Teachers Union and the remittance thereof to the Guyana Teachers Union, unquote. That's the order that is being quoted. Please supply duly verified and certified documentations so I may confirm and supply to the Ministry of Finance the names of the members of the Guyana Teachers Union on whose behalf deduction of union dues from wages and salaries should be made in order to allow for compliance with the interim conservatory order. Regards, Shaniel Autar. So, since the order speaks to members of the Guyana Teachers Union, the order directs the government to cease deduction of union dues from the wages and salaries of members of the Guyana Teachers Union. Not all teachers, and not all teachers are members of the Guyana Teachers Union. The judge specifically says members of the Guyana Teachers Union. It is those salaries that the judge ordered the deductions must be made from and remitted to the union. And here the permanent secretary, in a letter since the 14th of March 2024, is writing to Mark Light to say, send me the verified and certified documents of members of the union from which I must deduct the union dues in order to comply with the order. Since the 14th of March, Mark Light replied, on the 19th of March 2024, Ms. Shaniel Hussein Autar, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, 26 Brickdam, Georgetown. Your letter dated 14th of March under the caption Compliance with Court Order is acknowledged. The Guyana Teachers Union was not required to submit any information about our members before the deduction of dues ceased in February. Kindly use teacher data in your possession to comply with the order. That's what Mark says. Mark Light says that we didn't have to supply you members when you decide to cease. Use the same data. But that's not what the judge ordered. In Nanda Gopal case, they drew a big distinction about members of the union who are to pay union dues and non-members of the union who may be public servants who do not have to pay union dues. How can we deduct union dues from all teachers when the judge says you must deduct it only from members of the union? By letter dated 8th of April now, Mark Light is written to again, 8th of April, Mark Light is written to again by Shaniel Autar, the Permanent Secretary. And Shaniel Autar says this: your letter dated 19th of March 2024 comprises of 2 sentences, refers. And she quotes the letter. Your failure to supply, she's speaking again, your failure to supply the information requested has so far caused a delay in compliance with the order of Justice Kisoon dated 22nd of February 2024. I write again in another attempt to ensure compliance with that order. I wish to remind you that the relevant parts of the order refers to members of the Guyana Teachers Union, and not all teachers, but only members of the Guyana Teachers Union. The Ministry of Education remains committed to complying with the order. We need therefore to verify against the ministry's record, the record of your membership, to ensure that no unauthorized deductions are made, and even more importantly, that there is due compliance with the order. Hence our request. I am advised that a revert to the status quo suggested in your letter may not meet compliance with the order. One would expect that your union would be keen and eager to provide the ministry with the information requested so that there can be clear compliance with the order. This is a letter sent since the 8th of April 2024. These letters were all drawn by lawyers to ensure that there is compliance with the order. This is since April. We never received a response. How can the government be justifiably, how can the government be accused of violating a court order when we wrote twice asking for the information so that the order can be complied with? And in any event, all of you listening to me would know of the existence of a procedure to enforce an order granted by a court. Orders granted by a court cannot be breached with impunity. There is something called contempt of court. And a person can be held in contempt of court for failure to comply with a court order. But proceedings have to be filed for that contempt to be established to the satisfaction of a court. You have to go to court for contempt. Since April, since when we are writing these letters, February, no such application has been filed for any contempt of court. I say that to say to you that the contention now being made in the public domain that the government is violating the court order is baseless, is unfounded, and is malicious. Because I have in my hand 2 letters where we are asking for the information so that there can be compliance with the court order. And the information has not been forthcoming. So how do you want us to comply with the order? How do you want the government to comply? Deducting wrongly from people's salaries, and then the government will then be liable? Because if we deduct wrongly Jews from people's salary, if a person who is not a member of the union, we take their salary, we take union dues from their salary, we would be liable. We would be committing an illegal act, possibly a criminal act. Because it's fraudulent conversion. You're taking from a man's money and you're fraudulently converting it to your own use, giving it to somebody else. Our government doesn't operate in that reckless environment. So I thought that I would put those matters to rest so that the public, and I can make these letters public. If the press needs these correspondence, I have them, and I can make them available to the press. But I read them out, and you heard what they say. Please share the program press that share button on your phone so that all your viewers, all your followers, all your friends can join in tonight's discussion. The other issue that I want to spend some time on, is the budget. So you know that the national budget for 2025 has been presented by the Minister with responsibility for finance. The estimates of revenue and expenditures have been laid in the National Assembly and are now public documents. The budget speech of the Honorable Minister is available. The budget measures announced by the Minister are now all in the public domain. There is no need for me to travel that ground. That's already covered. I did a 1-hour sit down over the weekend dealing with the budget, and I have no doubt that many of you would have looked at it. But I want to spend some time on Nigel Hughes's outpourings on the budget. I have decided to spend some time on Mr. Hughes recently to demonstrate that when you unwrap this veneer of apparent sophistication, it is duplicity, hypocrisy, and absolute mediocrity that is laid bare before you. I have repeatedly said that this gentleman has now been reduced to bringing comedic relief or comic relief to the political landscape of this country. His is a narrative that is absolutely unbelievable, absolutely without credibility, absolutely without merit, and absolutely duplicitous. That is what epitomizes everything he says and everything that he does. And I've given you examples last week, and I'll give 4 examples this week. So this gentleman has been driving around the country in the interior and taking out photographs of dilapidated infrastructure. So I have here, he went to Philippi in August of 2024 and took photographs of what he claimed was a school in Philippi, a nursery school. He says that this was the nursery school. The Ministry of Education, I believe, refuted these things. But he contended that this is the nursery school. I think the Minister of Education posted proper pictures of the real nursery school. But he went somewhere under some benab in Philippi, took out photographs of some benches and says that this is the nursery school. But let us assume that his narrative is correct for the purpose of giving him the benefit of the doubt. Let us assume that this is the nursery school in Philippi. I have here, at Philippi, he took out some pit latrines. I have pictures of the pit latrines. He took out photographs of pit latrines, and he had a big post about it. And right through he's saying in these posts that this is the fastest growing economy in the world. We are an oil producer, and this is what our children have to live through. I believe he counted some 61 latrines in the school system. I pointed out to him that he was privileged, that he didn't know, or perhaps until recently, that 98% of the population used the pit latrine not so long ago. 98% of the population used pit latrines not so long ago. This was a major discovery for him, that we have 61 pit latrine in the school system of our country. And we are an oil producing country. He went to Toka in Region 7, and he took out photographs of children under a school, under trees. And he said that we don't have buildings to accommodate these children. The children were apparently having a day outside of the classroom, and the teachers took benches under the trees to enjoy the environment. He took photographs and said that there is no building in the community to accommodate the children, and that they are attending classes under trees. Again, the Minister of Education had to produce a photograph of the building for the school in the area, and had to point out that the teachers were having a day outside with the children, and they decided to sit in the cool environment, a natural environment of the trees, and they were sitting there with the children. This guy went there, took out a photograph, and says that there is no building, and this is where our children are getting an education, outside of a building and on the trees. But again, let us give him the benefit of the doubt. Let us assume that we didn't have the building, and our children, our students, are attending classes in the open air under trees. Let us assume that that is so. I have here September 2024. He has a picture here on his Facebook, several photographs of the Grove Public Road cave-in. And he has a long post about the government neglect of infrastructure in the country and the dilapidated conditions of our roads, and calling on the government to repair the roads. This is September 2024 at Grove on the east bank of the Demerara. This is the man, Nigel Hughes. This here is Nigel Hughes again in a place called, some roads in Port Kaituma. Took out photographs, put it on his Facebook page to show you how atrocious the roads are in Port Kaituma. So let us assume that all of this is correct. This is him showing you the state of the country's infrastructure and cussing the government and criticizing the government for not fixing the infrastructure of the country. Go today and look at his Facebook page. Go today and look at his Facebook page, and you will see he has a big caption: "The people cannot eat roads." Get his Facebook page for me. I'm asking the operator. I thought I had it here with me. He has a whole post today about the people cannot eat roads, and he totaled the whole roads and bridges budget, and he says this here is to give away to friends and contractors. So Remember I told you that this man is a con man in a suit? This is the man. Remember I spoke about duplicity? Remember I spoke about hypocrisy? Remember I spoke about mediocrity? This is a man who goes around the country, tells you that the children using pit latrine and that you must build flush toilet. And when the government puts money in the budget to build the very thing that he's asking for, he says, oh, so the people are going to eat concrete, the people are going to eat the infrastructure, the people are going to eat the sand and cement. He wants the road built. He shows you photographs of the dilapidated conditions. Now the government is putting money to build the roads. What does he say? What does he say? Government is building too much roads, too many bridges, and how do you take this guy seriously? How do you take a politician like this seriously? And I see today his party has chosen to make him the presidential candidate. Are you going to put your children's welfare? Are you going to put your future? Are you going to put your lives and the future of this country in the hands of a man who is so duplicitous, who engages in such blatant sophistry? I don't want to say lies. Sophistry. Takes out a photograph of children under a tree and said that's the school, that there is no building for a school. But let us assume that he's right. We are now building the school that he was asking for, and he said better must come. Well, better coming. We're giving you the school. You got a problem with that too. Now, he has concocted an argument now that this is for family and friends. The contractors who are going to build the flush toilets that he's asking for, the contractors who are going to build the roads that he wants to be fixed, the contractors who are going to build the bridges which he's calling to be constructed, the contractors who are to build the schools that he's asking to be constructed are now our friends and our families. And as he invented another word, flatterers. He spelled it wrong for several days. He was calling it flatterers. He got his spelling right. This is the guy that you will take seriously. So, all the contractors in this country, and we have black contractors, we have Indo-Guyanese contractors, we have Portuguese-Guyanese contractors, we have contractors of all races. They are all friends and families of the PPP, according to these guys. And I have said on the program, on the TV, when I was speaking about budget in depth, or budget in focus, that look, why are you envious of the contractors? Come and join them. Come and join them so that you can become a beneficiary as well. And worse yet, the bigger projects that we have in the country are going to international contractors and are being financed by international financial institutions. And the lending facilities of these lending agencies and the loan facilities that are extended, they tell you, the contractors, that you have to shortlist. And that is how that process goes. But these guys do not care to explain that. That is in conflict with their narratives. He wants to convey the impression of corruption. So the Chinese company that is building the Demerara Harbor Bridge is apparently my cousin or some family to somebody in the government. Isn't that what they're saying? Some one of us in the government related to the Chinese companies that are doing the Demerara Harbor Bridge. The American company and the Indian company that are doing the gas to shore project and the other international companies associated with that project, they're not Guyanese. Apparently, they are all families with somebody in our government. The Brazilian company, Ahilia, I think the name of it, that's doing the Linden to Mabura Road, a Brazilian company that is doing the Linden to Mabura Highway, is somebody family in our government. The Indian company, Ashoka, that's doing the Ogle Airstrip and the East Bank, the East Coast Highway, is another one of our relatives. The Chinese company that doing the railway embankment road on the east coast of Demerara is one of our family. Somebody in the government is related to that Chinese company. You see how insane these people are? You see how demented and delusional they are? And I'm speaking about Nigel Hughes and all the others who are making these allegations and these contentions. And they're writing it, and they're putting their face next to it. I have said before that if they can't take themselves seriously, you can't. Either something wrong with you mentally, in which case you shouldn't be anywhere close to government anyhow. You have something got to be wrong with you mentally for you to process your brain to process these things and don't find them ridiculous. If you find this to be normal, then something is wrong with your cognitive abilities and capabilities. And you should be nowhere close to public business and certainly not close to government. You got to, and I put them in this category. I am not saying that the budget is perfect. I'm not saying that the PPP is perfect at all. I believe we have many faults. But and I also expect the opposition and opposition politicians to be critical of the government and to be critical of the government. But I expect basic common sense in their opposition, in their criticism. I expect basic common sense. And common sense is lacking. You can't be complaining on the one side of your mouth about pit latrine. And when we're building the toilets that you apparently clamoring for, you got a problem with that too? And you expect people to take you seriously? I have said that there is nothing wrong with looking at a measure and complimenting it, or a policy and complimenting it. Nothing is wrong with that. It wouldn't take skin off your nose. Rather, it would maintain your integrity. It would demonstrate your magnanimity. It will attract respect. Imagine a $1.4 trillion budget with all the measures and not one Not one single compliment from these guys. Nothing in the budget pleases Nigel Hughes. Nothing in the budget pleases Aubrey Norton. Nothing. And you expect people to take you seriously? People who have already worked out with their families how they will benefit from the budget, from measures in the budget. People have already concluded that. How can you, with a straight face, go out there and tell the very people that there is nothing good about the budget? And that's the point I am making. These guys have no credibility and they don't care. That is the other worrying thing. And they have such little respect and scant regard for you that they believe that you will believe them. Imagine a man looking at a motor car and he's calling it a plane, an aeroplane, and he's telling you that it is an aeroplane, and you are looking at it and you are seeing a motor car. It's either that man is mad or that man thinks that you are mad. And I don't know which one is worse. What I do know is that that man should not be anywhere close to a government. That is what I know. These guys are in that category. They care not for their credibility in your eyes. They care not about that. Or they think that you are so gullible that you are asinine. So they can tell you anything. And because, I suppose, I don't know, they're appealing to some basal instincts in you, you will accept them. That's what they're doing. That's the only thing that makes sense. Other than the fact that they are mad and they're demented. I don't know which one you want to choose. I've given you several options. So, look at Mr. Norton 2 weeks ago gave a press conference in which he says that the judiciary is not being resourced. Let me say for the public record. Now, first of all, that is an outrageous and a very outlandish statement. The judiciary has never been the beneficiary of the type of resources that it is benefiting from now when compared to any time or any period in our history, post-independent or pre-independent history. I have a list of courts that we have already built and the courts that we are about, that will be building and or concluded and opened this year. A long list. I don't want to read them out. A long list of courthouses stretching from Region 1 to Region 10. We are building courts where courts have never existed. Perfect harmony. Tushan. Courts were never in those places. Friendship on the east bank of the Demerara. Soesdijk on the east bank of the Demerara. And these courts are not ordinary courts. I have put up images of them as we are opening them. They are all air conditioned. They have elevators. They have residential quarters for the magistrates. They are beautifully designed, expensively decorated and built. They have audio-visual system that records everything that the witnesses say. The magistrate doesn't have to write in longhand how it used to be done. Living quarters sometimes for the staff. The entire edifice is air conditioned, whether it is at Kokwani or Port Kaituma, air conditioned, with elevators. That's the quality of courts that we are building. We have appointed, I think, 10 judges one time, the largest influx of judges in the judiciary in the history of this country. We have appointed 3 commissioners of title at the same time. Just before that, we appointed, I believe, 12 magistrates. Again, the largest complement of judges ever, magistrates ever to be appointed in Guyana at one time. We put an amendment to the Court of Appeal Act, which we passed, to allow for, I believe, 6 judges to be appointed to the Court of Appeal of Guyana. And this year, those appointments will certainly be made. So in terms of human resources, in terms of physical and capital resources, the judiciary has never been as resourced as it is now. We have an e-filing portal and platform that we purchased for nearly $2 million US. So now court papers, lawyers can file cases from their court, from their offices, and you serve documents, exchange documents between lawyers, not physically anymore, but through a portal, through the electronic system, through the email and computer system. We purchased that. That's in the court. We have done so for the magistrates' court as well. And there's a pilot going on. Once that pilot is successful, then it will be replicated across the country in the magistrates' court. We are moving to implement e-payment, electronic payment in the entire court system and in the adjunct services like the deeds registry, commercial registry. When you go to pay bail or you go to pay fines, you can pay it by means other than cash. You can use your credit card. You can even pay it at payment places other than the courts, like MoneyGram, Grace Kennedy, or Western Union. All of that will happen this year. We are working on the infrastructure, the software, the necessary apparatus are being installed. Training is being done. How can a leader of this country make such an outrageous statement when the opposite is what is true? I just give you an example again to show you how these politicians are devoid of credibility. They are devoid of reality. They are speaking about a different reality. They live in an alternate universe or in an alternate reality. I don't know where they live because they're not speaking about Guyana. My operator is signaling to me that we have approached program time. I want to thank you very much for spending the past hour with me. I believe that we have covered a lot of ground and we have covered a number of issues. I want to ask your apologies from now for being absent next week. We are going to be in the National Assembly. The budget debates will begin on Friday, this Friday, and will continue all of next week, and then we will do the estimates, the national estimates in the Committee of Supply the following week. You will be following it on the Parliament website, so you will not see me for the next 2 weeks or so. But after that, we will continue our discourse. So until then, please take care, enjoy yourself, and may God bless you, and I'll see you in about 3 weeks' time. Thank you very much and take care.